Okay, today is Saturday, April 28th, 2012. We're at Annette Harkey's house, and we are here with the children of Dave and Ruth Carr. We have Annette Harkey and her son Marty Harkey, Ron Carr, Sally Hall, and Joyce Wynn. So, as Ronnie suggested, how about you just, if you could just introduce yourself and say a few quick words?
I'm Annette Carr Harkey, and I was born in Crystal City, Texas. Spent part of my childhood in Mathis and part of it in Crystal City. Went to school in both places. You mentioned talking about your highest level of education. I have a master's degree plus another 36 or so hours. And my master's degree is in guidance and counseling. And then I am licensed, or was licensed. I have retired my license as a licensed professional counselor and licensed specialist in school psychology and associate psychologist. What else?
That's good.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Marty Harkey. I'm 12/4/56. I live here. In my life, I was born. I graduated in Queensborough in 1977, and just here taking care of my little place out there at the farm in 175 acres, and just that's it.
Thank you, Marty.
My name is Ron Carr. I was born in September 29, 1943 in Beeville, Texas. We actually lived in Mathis, Texas, and as I understand, we were on a trip going to San Antonio, and I decided to deliver in Beeville, Texas, and that's how that happened. I was a preemie baby, and I was in an incubator, I think, for about a month, and in the hospital for maybe 2 months. I don't remember exactly how long. Lived early years in Mathis, Texas. Went to the first grade in Crystal City, the second grade in Laredo, and the third grade back in Crystal City. I graduated from Crystal City High School on May of 1962, so this is our 50th year graduation date. Graduated on a Friday, left on a Saturday, moved to Austin, Texas, and entered the University of Texas. I received a BBA in 1965 and a doctorate of jurisprudence law degree from the University of Texas Law School in 1969. I first went to work for the State Attorney General's office as an assistant Attorney General of Texas when Crawford Martin was Attorney General, was in the eminent domain section of that office. Left there in 72, went to the city of Austin's city attorney's office and headed up their eminent domain division for 1 year. Moved back to Crystal City in 73. Was elected, was the first appointed Justice of the Peace of Precinct 2 in 1979. Ran for the office the next year, was elected. Was appointed Savannah County Judge in 1982, ran twice and was elected twice. In 1989, in 1988, I ran for the Fourth Court of Appeals in San Antonio, was elected, and that's a 32-county district of Central and South Texas, has a greater population than 16 states of the Union. Served there till 1993, left in 1993, and have been sitting as a visiting appellate district judge since then. I actually only sat as an appellate judge for about 5 years. I sat in the Fourth Court of Appeals in San Antonio, the Dallas Court of Appeals, the Fort Worth Court of Appeals, the Corpus Christi Court of Appeals, both in Edinburgh and in Corpus Christi, the Houston Court of Appeals, and the Beaumont Court of Appeals. And currently I'm a retired appellate judge and a semi-retired district judge, and I've taken senior status. I have two sons, Sean Christopher Carr, that was born in 1972, and Joe Brandon Carr, that was born in 1982. Have 3 children from a prior marriage of my wife, Mary Carr, and have 3 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
Thank you.
My turn?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sally Hall, Sally Carr Hall, and Annette is the oldest of 5 siblings, and Ronnie is the youngest. And so, as one of the 3 middle children, my my history's quite a bit shorter than theirs. I was born December 30th, 1935, in Crystal City, and went to school in Crystal City and Mathis. I did eventually go to high school when we lived in Laredo and graduated from Martin High School in Laredo. I enrolled in UT. I have 2 or 3 years worth of college, but never got a degree. I worked in for builders basically in Austin as developers and builders. I obtained a real estate broker's license, which was useful in the work that I did, and also did property management. We have 4 children: David Hall, Raymond Hall, Greg Hall, and Donna Hall Corbin, and 2 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Joyce Harkey Wynn. My parents are Annette and Harold Harkey. I was born January 26th, 1951 in Crystal City. I went through school in Crystal City, graduated in 1969, and like Ronnie, the next day I went to college and graduated there in 3 years in San Marcos with a BS in home economics. And the next day went to Knippa to teach, and I've been teaching there for 40 years. Along the way, I obtained a master's degree in education through Sul Ross University, and did another part of a master's degree in English through Sul Ross State University.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to get some background information on Dave and Ruth, and I want to start in 1925. And please correct me if I've got any facts wrong or anything, but as I understand it, Dave is already in Crystal City in 1925. Ruth came to Crystal City in 1925 to teach school. Is that correct?
I don't remember what year she came, but I would think that would be correct.
Okay. And we all know, the end of the story or whatever, and all the things that Dave accomplished. I'm really interested in hearing about how that was built. Dave was one of the second youngest of a large brood. What do you know what he was doing at that time? How large was his operation? Did his father or his older brothers or anything kind of stake him to get him started? What was he doing at that time when he met Grandmother Carr?
Well, business-wise, I don't know, but I'll tell you what he was doing when he met Grandmother Carr. She came here as a school teacher, and in those days, school teachers lived in an apartment in someone's home. And there might be any number of school teachers living in a house with the owners. And it was a real nice arrangement. They were young, and they were compatible, and they always had a good time together. And Mother enjoyed that time. And this particular incident, they were going to go to town on a Saturday night, and in those days, everybody went to town on a Saturday, and they stayed all day, and then they stayed until real late at night. People lived out in the country, and they would come in, and that was their big day to visit and buy whatever they needed to buy and socialize. So the girls, other teachers told Mother that there was a man they wanted her to meet. Said, oh, he is just wonderful. He works at the bank. He has a fine new car. He's good looking. He has a good personality, and he is really going places. Sure do want you to meet him. So they talked on and on about him. So they got downtown that night, and there was, of course, the young men there as well as the young women. And Mother looked across the way, and she said, oh, I see him. I see him. He's right over there. Look, he's right over there. And they all looked around, and they started laughing, and they said, that's not him. That's just old Dave Carr.
I love that story.
Oh, and the man that they were so impressed with really never, I could tell you his name, but I won't. He never really did amount to much of anything.
Well, okay, and so his parents, Henry and Josephine, died in 27 and 28. So obviously nobody got to know them personally.
Right.
But did he talk about them much? Did you all get a sense of, excuse me, of what kind of people they were? Did he speak of them often?
I got the impression that it was a very close family because the children were very close to each other, and they spoke very positively of their parents.
Even as far apart as they are, starting, I think, Tobe was the oldest?
Yeah.
Born in 1879, and then Ari in 1904 or 3 or something like that. So that's a pretty broad stretch, but they were very close?
Very, very close.
And there
All
were
their
13
lives.
children
13.
of the family.
All their lives they were close. And yes, they spoke positively of their parents. They felt they had wonderful parents.
One of those children died, so there were 12 adults. Just push it, yeah.
Okay, so do you know, like, was the courtship long? Did they get married right away, Dave and Ruth?
That part of the story is.
What year did they get married?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
Do you know?
Well, they lost
I
their
looked in your
first
book and I
child.
couldn't
What
find
is
it.
this?
Where
Henry?
is my,
Don Henry.
where are those,
The book?
outlines I made?
They're in my book there.
I
Well-
made
No, just the
Scott,
top of Marty.
hold on.
I was
Hold
always
on a minute.
confused about that where Don Henry fit in,
Let's
if
see
it
which
was,
ones were held in.
I was thinking it was between,
What was the confusion, Susie?
where he fit in, because, I spent so much time with grandmother, and she would talk about just everything every once in a while, but she would always tease me about things. I'd always ask her how old she was, and she always said 100. And so she had funny stories of her, sometimes you didn't know when she was kidding, or
It was
Okay.
confusing to look.
Okay.
You see what, and that's a family group sheet.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
That
Okay,
should
so-
have a date on it for their marriage, I think, maybe.
It
The
should?
family group
Okay.
sheet.
Well, we know it was late 20s, about that time, and we can fill that in. Okay, so they always he spoke very highly of Henry and Josephine. What about Ruth's parents, Charles and Louisa? Now, you all, they lived, did you get to know them personally? Like, they lived through to...
I knew my grandfather.
Yeah.
He was, I'm trying to remember when he passed away. I was a little boy. I only knew him as a little boy. I did not ever know my grandmother. Here's a picture of Grandfather Brown.
And he came over straight from England, correct?
Yes, as a young boy.
Yeah.
Do you want that down there? You got a better.
He had
Okay.
he had the paper where he renounced his allegiance to the Queen. They had to do that.
Naturalization, yeah.
And then this is a picture of my grandmother, our grandmother, which is actually, what, four generations. This is the grandfather, our grandmother, our mother, and Annette.
Oh,
That's how it is.
sweet. And where was this taken? Do you know?
In the
Tynan.
front yard at the farm at
Matthews.
Tynan.
Well, again, I'm just curious, and if you don't know, Do you know if Dave's, like, at that time and as he began to kind of grow things, grow his operations and expand a little bit, do you know what it looked like at that time when he met Grandmother Carr? Was he, and do you know, did he just kind of do this completely on his own? Did his father help him? Did his brothers help him?
They all farmed, and they had
Okay.
a lot of operations that they did to get a lot of farming operations together.
Okay.
But what I was going to add, and if you stop and think about it, the depression. I don't know when the stock market crashed. but
29.
They were just right going into a depression.
Right.
And that's what they did, was try to survive through those years. Would you say that?
Well, it
that
started
was
out with their mercantile
difficult?
store.
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
they had a
store.
store in Big Wells and a store in Crystal City. They were
Yes.
mercantile stores. You've seen pictures of them, surely.
And this was established when he was very young. So this is his brothers doing
I
this?
don't know what age.
Right.
Henry.
Who had the
Dave's father,
mercantile?
Henry
Carr
had the
brothers.
store. Dave's father.
Scott,
Henry.
you've seen the pictures, haven't you, of
Yes.
the car mercantile
Mhm.
store? We need,
Yeah.
I
we need
didn't bring
those
mine.
pictures.
I can mix that in when I talk to Daddy.
Yeah.
He'll have a lot to say about that.
Okay, so and then moving forward, when Dave began to expand his operations and he had farming here in Crystal City, Mathis, Laredo, were there others?
Out of Dallas, right out of Dallas, where was it?
Plainview.
Yeah, I was
Hereford.
going to say
Hereford.
Hereford.
Yes.
Yeah, but there was also
McKinney,
a suburb
somewhere-
of Dallas. What suburb was it?
Was it over
I
around
know
McKinney
what
or
you're
something like
talking
that?
About.
Yeah.
We went
We used to stay at the Baker Hotel in
Farmington,
Dallas
it's
Oh, wow.
Something like Farmington.
while he, while
Farmers
he took care of
Branch.
his farming business there. And we would stay for a week or two at a time. I don't remember how long.
Wow.
And but I can't think of the name. If I had a map, I could
I
say.
would too.
But it's a big town
Farmersville
now.
or no?
It's not McKinney?
I'm just trying to name some names
Okay.
that might spark.
Okay,
But
and so
another thing about the Baker Hotel as well, my understanding was that we would also, did they go yearly to settle up? Because that was a process that took part in Dallas a lot of times.
Or at the
All
Gunner,
of the-
Gunner Hotel in San Antonio.
Yes, that's right, those two hotels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me just add that he didn't get big overnight.
right.
Because I was born in '43, and I can remember as a little boy when he would take a pickup load of produce, either onions or spinach or maybe
Yeah.
watermelons. It's called truck farming, and we'd drive to San Antonio and go to the Mercado there that's still there in San Antonio, and the different area truck farmers would park their pickups, and you sat out the back of your pickup.
One thing I want to throw in is don't you feel like you knew a different, not a different, but he was at a different time in his life, Dave Carr, than you did?
Oh, yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Because
Yeah, I
yours,
started
your
to
Dave
add
Carr
that, yes.
was very, I mean, it seemed to me funner. That's not even English. Can we go to the English teacher to correct the
Excuse me,
grammar?
More fun.
More fun and at a different place in his life than the Dave Carr that you had. Seems like traveling more,
Do
much
you believe
more.
that to be true, Annette?
I don't know.
Well, I think that's.
Well, what I know is I never
true,
knew my
isn't it?
parents as young people. I knew them only, my parents were in their 40s when I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I was 10, they were in their 50s, and by the time I was in 20, they were in their 60s, and I always knew them as old people.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew them as young people.
Oh, you see, what Daddy would do would be he'd make a lot of money and he'd retire, sort of. It was a sort of retirement, and then he'd spend it and he'd have to go back to work. You're talking about him trucking in the 40s, but he had made money before that.
Okay.
But he would just decide he wasn't going to do much for a while, or whatever. He'd close down operations, and then he'd go back to farming and make more big money. And when you were that age, I'm trying to think. Well, it was even later when he'd gone through several of those periods of making money and then retiring. But when we lived at the Major farm, that was another one of those starting over areas. And see, Joyce, you were born in
51.
And we moved out there in about
52.
And he was into one of those, put the vegetables in the truck and take them to the Mercado. But he had also had quite a bit of money in Mathis. We had the biggest home in town, and he had a shed there, and he had farming operations all over that country. And Charles can really tell you more about that. But it was kind of unusual in that he would just have this spurt of activity, and he was so creative, and he could do so much, and he could make so much money. But then he'd get tired, and he'd kind of rest a while, and then he'd go back to it. And I think it took a special woman to be his wife. That would have driven some women crazy. But she never, ever lost her cool. It didn't matter. They were farming in 5 operations in the state of Texas at one time, like we listed a while ago. Mathis, Crystal City, Laredo, Hereford, and where was the other one?
Out of Dallas somewhere.
Yeah.
And she had 5 houses to take care of.
She had 5 houses to take care of.
At the same
Never
time.
lost her
At
cool.
the same time.
Yeah.
And 5 children.
All these 5s. Now, one of those houses she was taking care of was in Ruidosa. And so
That's a
one of those
vacation
places
house.
didn't have a house. I think it was the outside of Dallas one. But she never lost her cool, and not many women could do that.
Well, I have some questions about how all of that was managed. So, Dave has these operations in different towns and stuff. Who were like his kind of key lieutenants, or who were people that he trusted that worked with him to help manage that?
Scott,
Broadly.
I want to interject something here that I thought, my thoughts about adding to it, because I didn't see it in what Charles wrote or what's been said, but I had a friend, one of my Mathis friends asked me one time what was the difference. Her father was a farmer, and she knew that there was something different. And she said, what was different? You know, your dad did farming. And I said, well, he was a produce grower and shipper. And as a result of that, he had widespread connections throughout the
United States.
the United States. And we knew these people. I mean, the Balchins from New York and Riley from Michigan and so forth. So that, you take it from there as to what the operations were. And he also had partnerships and limited partnerships on a crop or a certain period of time with different other growers.
So
But on a day-to-day basis, he always had lieutenants and whatnot. The first one I can
Yes.
remember is Max Gallegos.
Max.
Max was his driver and like his right-hand man.
Here in
Lived
Crystal
here
City?
in Crystal
And-
City.
Yeah, they were the Gallegos were here in Crystal City, but he had him down in Mathis.
Yes, he did.
Max is part of our
in Crystal
family.
City.
He was actually like part of our family.
And
Would
when
there
we
be
lived
pictures?
in Laredo, Max, the story I remember was that he had gone across to Nuevo Laredo, and I don't know how it occurred, but he got stabbed in the head with an ice pick and got murdered.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I remember it was a great loss to my dad,
Hmm.
because that was like
He
his
was our
driver and his right,
babysitter and chauffeur too.
everything.
We would
And-
travel in the summer, and Daddy would drive one vehicle. We always took 2 vehicles, and Max would drive the other one. Sometimes we'd ride with Max, and sometimes we'd ride with our parents.
Did he ever do any onions or stay out in the field real late?
Oh, yeah,
yes.
lots of
Oh,
times.
yeah.
The story I wrote in the Carl Wynn Tumlinson Texas Pioneer book about Max Gallegos is when I was a little boy, I remember I used to ride around the fields with him. And the reason I liked it because he let me smoke cigarettes.
That's the same
he-
reason I like to ride with you.
Yeah, and he wouldn't tell me. Until the one time that Annette and Harold were living at camp here, and I must have been like in the 2nd grade or something like that, and I'd rolled my little cigarettes, and I rolled one up and leaned over to light it, and the damn tobacco fell out, and the paper caught on fire and flashed, and put a big blister on my lip, and I remember I knew I was caught then. Because of the blister.
Well, if Dave had Max and other people like that, who did Grandmother Carr, did Ruth have any kind of support?
Maria. Maria was the first one I remember. She was my nanny when I was a little boy.
Okay. Was she around a long time? Okay.
Yes, she was.
So she would manage all these houses. Were there ever periods of time where you all were split up, where some might be, or were you always with Ruth together?
No, we were split up. See, about part of that time, I was already married.
Well, and as the oldest, were you kind of expected, especially with things sprawled out, like did you have to watch the younger kids a lot and stuff, or what was expected of you?
Oh, well, I didn't let my daughter know till just about a year ago that when I was in high school, the plan
Yes.
was for me to
That's what I
graduate
was
from
gonna- yeah.
Crystal
Right
City
on.
High School. And Buddy was to graduate from junior high the same year, and Mother thought we should stay here and graduate here instead of moving us down to Mathis, where they had to go for the onion harvest. So they rented a room at the local hotel for us. And those
So Daddy had an office there also,
they
Well, that makes
rented a
it
room
office
Yeah.
at the
for us
hotel.
to stay in at the hotel, and we had family type meals there because that's the way they managed the hotel. They had the big round table, you see in these old timey movies how everybody sat around the table with the big bowls of food. So we ate there, and then the owner of the hotel had instructions to watch out for us. So we spent 6 weeks there, Buddy and I.
And
He was,
I was there too,
I don't remember that.
yes, yes.
Here's
And-
a picture of
and
Buddy
it was
that you're
just
speaking of. You want to pass that up to
Ronnie
him?
and Charles
He
went to
died in
Mathis.
1985 of aneurysm
Oh,
in San
Sally,
Antonio.
did you go to school too?
Yes. I stayed, the three of us stayed
Hmm.
in the hotel.
And Annette, be clear, how old was Buddy?
He was,
He was graduating from junior high,
You know,
and I was graduating from high school. And one night, I was dating Harold, and one night I had a date with him, and he took me to the door, and I went into the room like a good little girl, and in a few minutes he came back and started beating on the door, and he was so excited. One of our mutual friends had been in a great big huge fight down the street, and, just a big old fist fight, two guys, and he just had to come tell me about it. Well, he no more than knocked on that door till Mr. Taylor came boiling out of his room and said, "What's going on here?" He was the owner of the motel. So we were well chaperoned.
Excuse me.
We were well chaperoned.
Yes, what was the name of that?
Process.
The
Process.
Process Hotel.
oh,
And
Process
Mr.
Hotel.
Taylor owned it. Mr. and Mrs. Taylor.
was it downtown?
Oh,
Right,
yes.
it's right next to the Rexall Drug
That's
Store
what
where
I-
that
Where
service station
Evans
is.
Rutledge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Where
sort of L-shaped
Evans is-
with the porch.
service station usually.
You know,
be.
let me digress for a minute.
Yeah.
We were talking about Buddy, and we never did list the birth order of the.
I was going to get to that.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Thanks. Well, and just to kind of get a personal flavor of them, like what was Dave the type that, like, when he taught politics, did he have certain positions? Was he didn't discuss that much?
He, go ahead.
I'll tell you what he did discuss. He was the old-timey entrepreneur, and when you have an operation like he had, you have to be in charge, and you have to be very, very sure of what you are doing and what other people around you are doing, and you have to be in charge. That's all there is to it. And I can remember one time at Mathis, he got mad at one of the attorneys over here, Jackson. What was his name?
Grover Jackson.
Grover Jackson. Grover Jackson was the attorney here. And I don't know what the argument was about. I have no idea. But Daddy was at the telephone in Mathis calling Mr. Jackson, Grover Jackson. And he was informing him. He said, "I will get in my car right now as soon as I hang up this phone. And I will drive straight to Crystal City. And when I get there, I'm going to beat the hell out of you." And he kept repeating that for emphasis. He wanted to be sure the man understood. And so, sure enough, he hung up the phone, got in his car, and left. And came right straight to Crystal City and right straight to Grover's house, just all ready. And Grover had left town. I've thought about that a lot. You know, he knew Grover would run, but he wanted to be sure that he came as the victor, and that Grover had left town. But that, you know, as you're saying, were there any controversies or whatever, that was interesting. I'd like to have known when it was over.
Right.
Granddaddy found out that Mother was ready to solo and take flying lessons, and he put a stop to it.
You got to tell that story, Mother.
Oh, well, he bought an airplane, and Mother thought that it would be real nice if I would learn to fly the airplane, and then I could fly a Daddy anywhere he wanted to go. And he wouldn't have to have a pilot. He had this daughter that could do that.
Practical solution.
So,
Well, come
she
on.
and I set it up with local men that were flyers and instructors, and Ralph Carmona was one, and Walker, well, I can't remember his first name, was the other. And they taught me to fly, and they were
Bill
very
Walker.
good. Not Dale.
Bill.
Bill Walker. And that's what you said. I didn't understand you. So they taught me to fly, and I did everything, and they were pleased, and I was ready to solo. My next lesson was going to be to solo. And somebody put it in the newspaper that we now had a girl pilot at the airport learning to fly. And my father read it in the newspaper. And he came roaring home, and he cleared the space and had a spell. And
No daughter of mine is going to learn to fly.
It's too late
he
for
was
that.
just furious.
He
No
was
daughter
none
of
too
mine's going to
pleased.
fly an airplane.
Tell,
Was the end of my flying.
Let me ask a question.
Just wait, Mike. He's going to ask the questions.
No, I was just going to say, you know, it's a different time, you know, that we're talking about, and I would imagine, you know, given the business that he's in, he probably has a lot of, you know, like Hispanic people working for him and stuff.
Yeah.
How was his relationship with the Hispanic community? Like, did he speak Spanish? Did he? How did he?
Excellent. He had an excellent relationship with Hispanics.
They liked him, and he liked them, and they called him Mr. Davis,
Mr.
which was
Dave.
confusing because, you know, he was Dave Carr, but they didn't call him Dave, they called him Mr. Davis.
And I'll tell you a story that I heard. I wasn't there. The men would play poker. The farmers here on, I guess, I don't know, a monthly or weekly basis or something like that. And there was Warren Wagner, Joe Bird,
Paul Little.
Paul Little, my dad, and several others were playing poker. And it was, I guess, in 1962 when the PASO, I think they were called PASO, the Juan Cornejo group ran for public office here. It was the first time any Hispanics had run for
Yes.
city council. They put a slate up of 5. And one of them, I think his name was Maldonado, worked for my dad. No, worked for Joe Bird. Worked for Joe Bird. And he appeared at this poker game to tell Mr. Bird, you know, what he was going to do, kind of get his blessing and whatnot. And he told him, and Joe Bird said, well, if you file for office tomorrow, you're fired. And my dad spoke up and said, well, if he fires you, you're hired. And that was the kind of relationship he had with him.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
And who were their friends that they liked, that both of them liked to spend time with? Who did Dave and Ruth enjoy spending time with?
Family, I
What
think.
was Blair's first name? That had
Elwood.
Elwood Blair and his wife Molly.
Monty.
You have to live in 2 communities, and you probably can relate to this, Scott, to know how communities are so very different. In Mathis, Mathis was very different from Crystal City. They were more church-oriented and not so hard drinking and so hard partying and all of that. But they had a good time, and Mother and Daddy belonged to something kind of like a supper club.
Yeah. So
They would meet once a month and have a meal and such. And it was a very, what is the word, kind of, it was a social time, but it was not a wild drinking partying time. That just didn't go on there. But in Crystal City, if you had a social time, there was a lot of drinking and a lot of partying and a lot of stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad I got to know them as they entertained people in Mathis and interacted with people in Mathis, because it was so very different. And here they never really seemed to interact with a partying crowd at all.
A group, just individuals.
They did have friends, but it was more like on a smaller basis.
Mm-hmm.
They had people that came to the farm and visited and this and that, but it was never a large crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It was a large crowd in Mathis, but it was a very subdued crowd.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just different. I don't know if you
I know.
noticed the difference between Crystal and Pleasanton, but
Oh, yeah.
Besides
there
the
is,
neighbors,
Mhm.
towns are different.
Right.
Dr. Poindexter.
Dr. Poindexter.
And I know they went on several
Trips together.
Yeah, trips
And
together.
we
They
had
were
a trailer
friends,
at
very-
at Poindexter's place.
Escondidora.
Yeah. What, not Comcan, where,
Escondidora.
well, but it,
That was the
And-
name of the little place where his place was above.
yeah, I
Congress.
know, but I thought it had another name, a town, no,
Pandora.
no.
Can I tell the one about the elephant?
No,
No.
no, let Scott ask the questions.
And so
I know
was he?
there were others, but I can't right now. We'll probably think of them.
Well,
later.
Elwood and Maudie Blair were friends, and,
Good point.
there were
Poindexter's.
others. Who?
Poindexter's.
Yeah, and who else? There were
Well,
others.
was it Williams? One of the Lamar Williams?
Could have been.
And there was two Williams families. They were close friends with one of those
Mhm.
at an earlier time. I know.
Was he the type that, like you were saying, he would get a burst of working and be very successful and take some time off? When he was working, was he just working, or would he be social and fun at the same time?
I think he was more working.
More
I mean,
working.
when you're doing that
Yes.
kind of work, you don't have time for anything
It's
else.
24/7.
It's, you're planting and you're harvesting and you're at that produce shed. Well, when when they were all working out together out there, Harold didn't ever get home till 2 or 3 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
because they would run the onions under lights, you know, they had electricity out there, and they would be running those onions till 2 and 3 in the morning, because you had to get them out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you couldn't wait, there wasn't any waiting.
And you know what point Dale made, because I was telling him about what we're doing and about Daddy and about the farming, and something that he said that I wouldn't have thought of, Charles may have, but he said he always, he kept his equipment in perfect order. He said-
In good
and
shape.
Dale told something to that effect, like, you know, you can have a tractor or something, but if it's not running, you know, something
I
to
remember that.
illustrate.
All of that had to
You-
go on,
well,
too.
Or maybe, and you may have
I
told
remember
him,
that.
it may have been you instead of Dale, but.
And those
just
graders
the
were
last few
mechanical, and they were not perfect, you know, like things are. Things are more easy to run today than they were back then.
Right.
That things would happen, and all of that had to be kept in working order, and it was,
Focused on that.
yeah, timelines had to be met.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep thinking over and over about the cell phones. You know, they spent so much time running up and down the roads, the communication.
Yeah,
Just communicating with somebody about what they needed or parts
That's true.
or things like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It was back and forth, back and
We
forth.
probably,
Yeah.
Had they had
In
cell
some
phones.
places, we had party lines, but
Oh, yeah, if
we
you had
had
a
at
phone.
the
If
time
you
we
had
had it
a
out the major, and we didn't even have a phone.
Yeah.
I don't even.
We had no phone.
Yeah.
Then a party line, and then,
Yeah.
you know, now it's cell phone.
And with the, you know, when you're shipping produce, time is of the essence, and a lot of those crops had to be refrigerated rail cars.
Mhm.
And, you know, there were times
Very.
when the cars got stopped and they lost, you know, would lose the whole
Mm-hmm.
Or
whole
maybe,
shipment, a carload,
yeah.
and things like that.
And
Time.
being the oldest grandchild, I remember going to all those sheds
Mm-hmm.
and watching those onions be packed and shipped, and Daddy would let me get up there and grade the onions, and the smell, oh my gosh, the
The
smell.
smell.
And he had so many sheds going on. I remember one at the Majin, There were 2 different ones in Crystal City. There was one in Mathis, and y'all could tell.
Yeah,
You
that's
remember
true.
more of them.
And there was also the threat of hail. The
Yes.
times when you harvest onions are the times when it hails in this part of the world. And so there was, if you got a hail on an onion, it would rot. I mean, it just took one little nick and it would rot. So you would lose your whole crop if it hailed. And it's one of the most expensive crops to grow. It was it was handled by hand from the time it began. You know, they were even pulling those plants by hand. You put 100 in a bundle. Then somebody takes that bundle of 100 and a stick and sticks them in the ground. Hit the ground with the stick, make a hole, plant the little old tiny onion, hit another one, plant it, hit another one, plant it. I mean, that's hand labor.
Oh, yeah.
And when the end of it is that you get a hail, which was very likely, and you lose it all, you're not just losing your profit, you're losing all of that expense that went into it. So it took nerves of steel to do
Plus,
that.
And there again, the difference being that Daddy did farm and did have his own crops, but when he shipped, he also shipped crops for other farmers and charged a percentage of fee, or charged a flat fee. I don't think it was a percentage. I think that he got paid for that, whether they made money or lost money on their shipment. I mean, that was a steady,
Yeah.
took some of the risk,
Right.
all of the risk out of the operation.
Did it ever rain in the field?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but rain didn't hurt them like hail did.
And of course, they didn't know that, you know, there was no method of knowing what the weather was going to be. Like we have some kind of prediction nowadays,
sure.
and you can get in there early and pull them if you need to.
Yeah.
They didn't. There
Didn't have that then.
Yeah.
The other thing too
communication.
is, I think he figured out towards the end, there would be people that were financial people that would come in and finance people like my dad. They put the money up, he would put the labor and the know-how up.
Yes.
But they had their own crops also that they owned 100% of,
Yes.
and they were the sellers. So it turned out when the price was high, they'd sell out of their field. When the price was low, they'd sell out of the field of the people that they financed.
It's tough business.
How did he respond to that?
Well, at that time, I think he was at the end of his life, he had kind of retired.
Well, and I want to get some kind of little more personal snapshots, so I'll just kind of set the table real quick, like you said, to get the order going. They had
I'm done with this.
6 children. Henry Don Carr, born in 1928, Annette, born in 1930, Buddy in 1934, Sally 1935, Charlie in 1938, and Ronnie in 1943. So Annette, again, to kind of get some personal flavor about your upbringing and stuff, who were your good friends that you spent a lot of time with growing up, and did you have a preference of being here in Crystal City or Mathis and the places you were moved around? What was that like for you?
Again, it was different. The 2 towns were different, so very different. And if I talk about best friends, it would be from Mathis, because those are the years when you really form those strong friendships. And it was during the Depression. A lot of kids didn't have shoes to wear to school. They'd come to school barefooted. And my best friend lived out in the country, Grace Remsauer, and her parents made her wear shoes to school. She had school shoes. They could afford them, and they were not about to let her go to school barefooted, but a lot of her friends would go to school barefooted. And so she would wear her shoes on the bus to school, and then she'd take them off before she got off the bus and go in barefooted, and then put them back on when she get ready to go home. But and I went to school barefooted. It was choice. I had money. My parents had money for shoes, but I like to go barefooted, so I'd walk through the grass burrs and go to school, because I knew Grace would be barefooted too. And so anyway,
And
it was a different time. We used to live 5 miles from the lake, and it was a kind of a country road, but it was paved. And I'd get on my bicycle and bicycle out to her house, and she'd be waiting for me, and then we'd go together on our bicycles all the way to the lake. Thought nothing of bicycling 5 miles out there and 5 miles back. And we had a good time. We'd swim in the lake, and a bunch of the girls would go together, and we'd all go swimming. And never mind that somebody drowned out there every year. One of Buddy's best friends drowned out there, but we never worried about drowning. I don't know why we didn't, because I couldn't swim across this area where we always went. I was one of the younger ones, and of course Grace was younger too, but she probably wasn't in this group that went swimming. He was a couple of years older, and they were stronger swimmers and older, and so I would go in the inner tube. I couldn't swim it, so I would go on the inner tube, and the deal was if anybody couldn't make it, they could always hang on to my inner tube. My parents would have had a fit if they'd known about that. But it was soon that I could swim it. It didn't take long.
okay, and how did you meet Uncle Sonny?
Same way Mother met Daddy, downtown on a Saturday night.
She was in the shower, and Dad came in and asked her something.
What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
What's this?
You were in the shower, and he asked you, "Will you marry me?" What?
Oh, that was
Oh,
a
yeah.
funny story that he got all enjoyed telling. I would go and stay with the Harkeys. Max would drive me sometimes. And anyway, I would go and stay with them, and I knew he had a ring for me. I somehow knew he had a ring for me, and I was in the bathroom taking a bath, and he was beating on the door saying, "Get out, I have something I want to tell you. Get out of there, you've been in there long enough, come on." And I wouldn't get out because I knew it was a ring and it was a big thing, and I just couldn't quite face that. So he always told people he gave me my ring while I was in the tub, but that wasn't so. You can delete that. Delete.
Well, how
Marty,
did
you remember too many things.
And
Marty.
and there was one other something about Joe Bird saying about something about you got pregnant or something by.
That's another funny story
Okay,
that I will not explain, and you will not either. We will move on.
okay? How did Sonny, how did Dave? Did Sonny go talk to Dave? How was
Yeah,
that?
he did.
How did
And
that go down?
we had a lovely wedding. Went back to Dallas to get my wedding dress because we'd spent so much time there.
Mhm.
We looked at Neiman Marcus, but we wound up buying it from another store that was at that time as equally important as Neiman Marcus was. We were perfectly satisfied. But we had a big wedding at Mathis. Really nice.
Well, back
And-
up and tell us how Harold went to talk to Daddy, didn't he? Before, or did
I
he?
don't remember.
Okay,
I don't remember. He talked to him.
or telling him.
It just seems like from what you can gather about him, that he seemed to have kind of a commanding, strong personality. So was Sonny intimidated by?
Well, he was at that point. But, Daddy was not ready for his oldest daughter to get married, of course. That was a tough thing for him to accept, and I was only 18.
You were rather young.
I was
Did
rather
he
young.
say that you
Did he
needed
try to
go
discourage
school
you?
for a year?
I don't remember. That was my thoughts. I knew I wanted to go to college for at least
Oh,
a year
okay.
before I got
I see.
married. So I did, and that was a good thing because later it really came in handy.
You were 18 when you and Daddy
Yeah.
Daddy moved you.
He'd been
18?
in the service. He was in the Coast Guard, and he was home from World War II.
Well, okay, and then just kind of moving on chronologically a little bit. Uncle Buddy, John Carr, who's not with us anymore. We knew him as an adult somewhat, but of course didn't know him as what was he like as a child? Did he have a real outgoing personality? Was he more, kind of introverted? What was he like as a young person?
Sally, you answer that. You and Buddy were very close.
Yes, we were close. He was, he had a lot of friends.
He did.
And his big sister used to tease him mercilessly.
Yes, I did.
Didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he would, and I guess the reason you did it was because he reacted to it.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
So he didn't like to be teased.
He always wanted to sit by me when we'd go in the summer. Whatever car I was in, he wanted to be right next to me, and I would fuss at him about that.
Daddy always, when Annette started going out, whether it was dating or just going, Max would drive and he would send me along on her dates.
And Ronnie.
Yes.
Took
Yes.
Ronnie on a mini
Max
date.
driving and the little one sitting in the back seat to keep up with what was going on. But Buddy and I were the two middle children that you were talking about living in the same place. I did go the 6 weeks to school when Annette was graduating here. I stayed at the Crosshouse with them. And then another time later on, Buddy and I we were in school in Mathis, and we stayed there the 6 weeks or whatever period of time it was to finish school. So we spent some time, and at that time, I was in probably not over a sophomore in high school or younger, sophomore or younger. I would cook for us, and we stayed in our home there and drive. Because I was 13 or 14, there was a Jeep. We had a Jeep, and I remember one day Buddy was sick, and I said I would go and get some Campbell soup or canned soup at the store, and drove downtown in the Jeep, and the brakes failed, and the Jeep jumped up the curb and went like that and just barely tapped the big plate glass window of the store. But it just came crumbling down. So I've talked to Buddy on the phone, I guess in the store, because as you said, we didn't have cell phones. But by and by, he knew about it pretty quickly and came down and talked to the owner of the store and everyone involved and said to say he was driving. So he was a protector. And he was good about doing things for me when I got myself in a jam of any kind.
Okay, so and he's 9 years older than you, Ronnie. Was he a good big brother to have? Would he take you to go do things and stuff? And do you remember that kind of relationship when you were young with him?
Not really. I think we had our relationship after I got out into high school.
Yeah.
I can remember he was one of the first people that ever taught. Was one of the first people that ever, how do you say it? Treated me as an adult when I was still a kid. We'd have adult conversations.
That sounds like, yeah.
That was like
That's
him
true.
to
Yeah.
be that way.
Yeah.
Okay. And then was it just kind of a foregone conclusion that he would remain here and be kind of part of Dave's operation or move in that
so.
flow, or did he have aspirations of another kind?
No,
What-
I think both him and Charlie wanted to be part of the Dad's operation.
Okay. Okay, and then Sally's next after Buddy.
My goodness.
Who were your kind of the similar questions? Like, who were your friends as a youngster? And did you have a
similar situation
Yeah.
that Annette had, in that we were going to school in the two places? Ronnie, you didn't have that quite to the extent that we did, but the crops would come off at different times, and so Mother always went wherever Daddy was, and that was set procedure. But as the kids got older, we could stay finished school, so I had friends both places. And in Crystal City, my very close friends were Judy Geiler
Hello?
and Shirley Humphreys and Virginia Davidson. And so we were real close. Another thing we did, I don't know to what extent the other kids did it, but we had sleepovers. So many of us lived in, we lived in the Cook area. And so we would spend weekends at each other's homes.
Okay.
And I guess that was tradition even
No,
with
growing up.
Joyce, yeah. So we were close. And then Mathis, my best friend was Joanne Ramsauer, who was a cousin to Annette's friend, Grace Ramsauer. And then our next across the street neighbor, Margaret Ann Pusselman, her father was also in the produce business. And the other side, Mary Henderson. I think Bill Henderson might have listened.
He was in the produce business also.
And
Lived behind us in Mathis.
yeah, so Mary and Margaret Ann and Joanne were my good friends.
And how did you meet your husband, Dale?
After I graduated from high school in Laredo, and I graduated early, 3.5 years. I went to summer school there because I just had the 1 year, my junior year of high school was in Laredo. I had been to two different schools, the freshman and sophomore years were different schools. So I really didn't have any, what you would call the traditional high school relationships. And it was a larger town, a larger school, and I was able to complete school and go on to college a year early. So I went to UT, and I pledged a sorority. And one of the things that I had some talent for growing up was art, drawing and painting and art, and I was majoring in art. And the sorority was decorating a float for a parade. And Dale was in the Air Force and stationed in San Marcos, and some of my sorority sisters dated some of the other guys from there, a group. I'm sure a group of them that would come there and that they knew. Actually, I think my best friend in the sorority actually knew Dale Schneeb dating, but they were good friends.
Okay.
And so he was there to work on the float because he also was artistically inclined. So we were working on this float together, and that's how we met.
Okay.
What sorority? What sorority?
Alpha Gamma Delta. It's no longer, they don't have a house or a chapter. They don't have a chapter at UT at this time. But they had a by the way, they had a very, very new sorority house. It was very, very modern, the ranch style, 50s, and neat compared to some of the others, which were the older traditional houses.
Okay, I'm gonna switch this real quick.
So when
Just switch up.
we